All right, today is August 31st, 2022, and I'm doing a lift kit, 2.5-inch lift kit on this 85 Jeep CJ7. I put these larger shackles on, wanting to get, because they needed to be replaced anyway, so I figured I'd lift it a little bit, but they're too tall, as it turns out. They make the factory springs kind of almost flatten out. And the factory springs are, by this time very worn anyway. So it's time to replace those and the shock. So oftentimes in my usual manner, I get started before I describe what I'm going to do. So anyway, I've got the two rear leaf springs there and the front. The other one's supposed to come today for the front. So I'm starting with the rear here. So I've got that, the U-bolts, that attach the spring to the spring perch. And then I've got the rear shackle portion of the leaf spring removed. I'm getting ready to do the front there. And then that'll be out of the way. Then I'll just clean up the plate that the shock attaches to, pull that old shock out of there, and put the new one in place. And hopefully it'll go up without a hitch. One guy told me that you might need to put a come along on the leaf spring eye as it attaches back here to the shackle. I'm hoping that's not the case. Hopefully I can get it to go on up in without any problems. I am using some different shackles. They are greasable, but they're not. I think they're made by Teleco, whatever. It's these right here. They might give it like a 1/2 inch, so I guess the total amount raised would be 3 inches. But those aren't as long, but they're still greasable, which is a good thing. So what I did too, in addition to that, before I got started, I pulled the Jeep out in the drive there, relatively flat, and I got a measurement from the bottom side of this rear quarter to the ground. That was 27.5 inches. And then I got from the front bumper to the ground, the underside of it was 20 inches. So once I get this kit put on, we'll see how much it actually lifted the Jeep. However, I don't really know what it was with the stock shackles on, so I can't really compare that. But I know that these shackles alone, the 2.25-inch lift that they purport, definitely lifted the Jeep up. So I'm imagining it's going to be a little higher than it even was before. So, all right, here we go. Okay, we got that spring out. We had to cut the bolt on this spring eye here, both sides of it, because it would not come loose. Probably been in there its whole life, who knows. I don't know if this is a factory spring, because that new spring is a 2.5-inch lift, and it looks like this one is not much different, except maybe just the fact that it's a little worn. I mean, it might, I guess it'll give it a little bit of lift, but it's not going to give it that much, it doesn't seem. Of course, the spring rate could be different though, so that might be what it is. The fact that the spring rate is different. So on this one, yeah, I bet that's what it is. So when the weight of the vehicle's on the spring, it's not going to collapse as much on the newer spring. It's got a higher spring rate to it. So because it looks, yeah, this leaf here is not as long as that one. The leaves are a little bit different. Yeah, this looks like it's probably a factory spring, if I were to guess. So yeah, anyway, I gotta go get some new bolts. Carter's taking out that shock.
This sucks.
You getting it? He's almost there. All right, Carter, I'm gonna measure this thing and go get 2 bolts, because we're gonna need one on the other side too. All right, me and Carter really busted it out, got it all done. So I think we did gain about a 1/2 inch. I took a measurement on it. Should have been about half to a 3/4 inch that we gained. That's about what we did, because the measurement was 27.5 up to there. It's now 28 when I measure it right over there, that is. And you can sort of see that it looks like it's jacked up in the back just a little bit because the front has not been put on yet. So hopefully that front end will come up a little bit higher tomorrow when I put the other part on. So did a good job, Carter.
I know, right?
You're supposed to say thank you. Your pants are dirty, by the way. Don't sit on any furniture.
You don't say.
So yeah, I think it's a little bit high in the back, which is cool because that's what we wanted, just a little bit more lift. So when I put 33s on there, they'll look real nice. Either 32 or 33s. I don't know which ones I'll do. And I like these Shackles better because they're not as long and they're actually thicker. The steel on them are thicker. These are made by Teleco, whatever. So I guess those other leaf springs that were on here might have been a 2.5-inch lift or a 2-inch lift or something from years gone by. They were definitely worn though, you could tell. So anyhow, new shocks, new leaf springs, Shackles on the rear, that's all done. So the only thing I'll have to do now on this is put my receiver ball thing back on there. But I'll do that maybe Friday. Tomorrow is Thursday. I'm going to do the front end. So the lift, that is. All right, catch you guys later. All right, it's September 1st, 2022, and in usual fashion, I've gotten started before I describe what I was going to do. Finished the rear springs and shocks and Shackles yesterday. I misspoke though. The springs that I took off that I've already thrown away were probably in fact the factory springs because for one thing, the way they're held together is not like this. They're actually crimped together, and the other giveaway was the fact that I already had the 2.25-inch Shackles on when I took the measurement, and I gained a 1/2 inch by swapping to the new leaf springs and the new Shackles, which these Shackles are only supposed to give 1/2 inch of lift. That's 2.5, so a combined 3 inches, and it lifted at about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. So that being said, because these Shackles were on it before when I measured it, it was already lifted 2.25 inches. So what I'm getting at is that these are, in fact, even though the other springs weren't a whole lot different arc than that, they were just a little bit shorter at the center point of the arc. Just like I had mentioned, the spring rate is different. So this has a heavier spring rate, and that's why it is able to hold the Jeep at that arch there, and why the other ones could not. Now this has got an arch in it now, again, because I've relieved all the weight of the axle off of it. But when the weight of the vehicle is on this spring, it is absolutely almost dead flat, and that's because the spring has a low spring rate, and so it's able to overcome the spring, whereas on this it shouldn't. So though this is a factory spring, there's what I was talking about, the way those are put together. That's a factory setup right there. So that verifies that the fact that these definitely needed to be replaced. So, and I'm going back to the shorter Shackle because I suspect that this is what caused my caster issue, because it's only lifting it on this side. It's not lifting it on the back. Like this spring will be lifting it both on the front and the back. It should not have the same caster issue. May not even need degree shims. So we'll see when I take it in for the alignment. In any case, I've already gotten started. I've removed the U-bolts from there. I'm supposed to take that steering stabilizer off, but I may not have to do that. Even though I took the bolts out, it's stuck on there, and I'd have to beat on it for a while, heat it up. What I'm going to try to do is leave it in place, and take this leaf spring out of there without taking that off, because I may be able to do that, and it's actually a little bit easier anyway. So right now I'm working on this shock to get it out of the way, because it's going to have to be replaced with that one right there. So here we go. Okay, the driver's side front came out very easy. Hopefully the passenger side will be as easy, knock on wood. You can definitely tell a difference here. There are more, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's more leaves on the new one, plus the arc is larger, steeper. So, and I could tell by just kind of stepping on the front spring versus that one that the spring rate once again is greater on the new spring. So that should make a difference. All right, so now just got to get things cleaned up underneath there so I can get this thing installed. One point of note to self, anybody else who's doing this on this CJ, is that you have this plate right here that has to go up before it goes up against the axle perch there, before the leaf spring. So the leaf is sandwiched between this plate and the actual plate that, you know, buckles up with the U-bolts. So get those cleaned up and then I'll be ready to put the leaf in. Here we go. All right, here's the passenger side. Got this spring out of there. Very, very fortunate. Thank the Lord that I did not have to cut the bolt here on either side of this one on the front here. On this rear leaf mount, as well as the one on that side, because over there on the rears, on this mount location, I had to cut the bolts off, and somewhat of a chore. Now, I did make two mistakes in the rear. One was I forgot to put the metal insert in the bushings before I put the bolt in there. So I think it's on this side too. I think it's on this side. I did it on the other side, but somehow I forgot to do it on this one. So I'll have to take that loose. You know, after I get the front all done, I'll have to, you know, jack it up and get the weight off of it. The other thing that I forgot to do, or didn't forget, I guess I just overlooked it, is the shocks. On the lower portion of the shock, the bushing in there, it has a metal insert that's supposed to go in there. And so I'll show you what those inserts look like here. So for the rear spring support or mount, that's going to be this one here. Very important. So it doesn't, you know, the bolt would absolutely chew those up in no time without that metal insert. So, and then here's the shock mount insert. On the top, on both the front and rear sections, the top already has that kind of built in on that stud. It doesn't have it on the bottom though. And so, dummy me, I saw these and thought, huh, I guess they put those in there if you need them. Yeah, I need them. Just overlooked it. So anyway, I'm getting this one all right on the front. And then I'll go back and readdress that in the rear. Not a big deal. So now I got to just clean up just all this grease and dirt combination here on everything. I'm not going to go crazy with it though, because these leaf springs are going to come back out when I go to do the, or maybe, I'm not decided yet. If I can do the differential rebuild without pulling the axles all the way out, I will. It might be easier for me to pull the axles all the way out, and of course if I do that, I'll completely clean them up and repaint them and everything. It's just, it depends on how easy it is to get to things. I guess I'm kind of answering my own question on this here. This linkage, the tie rod ends and so forth, would get in the way of trying to get the gears in with the carrier and everything, because I'm putting a Spartan limited slip differential up there. So that looks like I'm going to have no choice but to pull this one out And I guess, yeah, that's gonna be, unless I just drop these tie rods out of the way. Because if I pull the whole axle out, then obviously the upper and lower ball joints, yeah, everything has to come loose there. So it's not gonna be an easy job. But anyway, back to what I was doing. Here we go. Okay, got that pretty much cleaned up. Got everything wire brushed off, and so I got a nice clean surface here, and the axle spring perch. One thing to note for anybody else who's out there doing that, it might come across my video, is the U-bolt that goes over this right here, the end of the differential where this axle tube is pressed in. One of the U-bolts goes over that, the other one goes right here. So it'll appear, and I thought they had sent me one that was too large. It turns out there's only one larger U-bolt in the whole kit, and that's the one that goes here. So just be aware of that. Larger one goes there, the other one here is the same as the other two on that side, and then the back ones are their own size as well, different part number. Anyway, so now it's time to get the new leaf spring prepped and put in place. Here we go. All right, it's all in there. So what they tell you to do is to leave the front shackle and the rear sections loose. You know, of course, tighten up the U-bolts and stuff for the on the axle perch there, but leave it, you know, not supposed to crank those down until after you've lowered the vehicle to the ground so that it can adjust and settle where it needs to be. So that's what I'm getting ready to do now. Okay, there it is. The original measurement from the floor up to the bottom of the bumper here on the driver's side was 20 inches, and now it's 21 and a half. So I gained 1.5 inches. I'm not surprised by that. What I would like to have known, though, well, I guess what it is from the, before I ever replaced these shackles, when they were still the OEM shackles and the OEM leaf springs, this Jeep sat down quite a bit lower, and it's probably literally 3 inches higher than it was originally. You can tell there's definitely more clearance there for that 31-inch tire, so 33s will go underneath there, no problem. Again, I'm undecided on 32s or 33s, but yeah, it's got a nice, it's sitting on a flat surface, relatively flat, and it looks nice and even. Yeah, it's definitely sitting up higher, so I like it. Have to see how it rides. But first, I've got to fix the issue that I mentioned earlier in the back. I've got to put an insert right here on that bushing, and then I've got to put the insert for the bottom part of the shock mount right down. You can see the shock mount down there. Got to put an insert on inside of that red bushing there on both of those shocks. Pretty easy to do, so I'm gonna take care of that and then give it a test drive, see what we got. So, all right, I'll be back in a few. All right, I just took it for a test ride and everything feels real solid. I lubed the shackles at the lube points there and up there, all the way around, and everything seems to be sitting nice and level. Looks like we probably gained about 1 inch overall. So, like I said, it's those are 31 1050 tires. They're in great shape, so I'm not going to replace them, but when they are replaced, I'm either going to go with 32 1050s or maybe 33 1150s or something. I don't know that rim, that factory wheel, will accept a 12.5 inch wide. I might just go to 32s. I mean, I am going to go to a mud terrain though. So yeah, that was a good project. Took me 2 days, you know, 1 day for the back and 1 for the front. I guess it was probably 5 or 6 hours in total. Front was less, probably 4. I think the back was probably 6 hours. But now the next big project will be to put the 4:10 gear ratio in with a, I'm going to use an Auburn gear. It's called a grip and lock. It's a really nice limited slip unit for the rear, and in the front I'm going to use a it's basically a Detroit True Track knockoff made by Spartan. I've heard really good things about them, so, and they're a lot less expensive. So yeah, that's gonna wrap for today. I'm gonna clean this garage up now and get the garage queen back in there, just sitting over there. 66 Chevy truck. All right, we'll catch you guys next time.